Another Arlington eatery falling victim to the ongoing pandemic. Adventure Pub, which opened its doors in late 2018, is closing for good at the end of this month. The game bar and restaurant in East Arlington featured a unique atmosphere which included games, great food and drinks. But owner Athena Peters said she simply could not save this business when things are anything but normal. Another virtual community conversation on race in Arlington is aired on ACMi. This time, it's elevating suppressed voices, giving people of color a chance to speak instead of being spoken for. We talked to Arlington's town manager about the importance of continuing these open discussions no matter how uncomfortable they get, and what's in store for the Black Lives Matter banner currently displayed at Town Hall. We also talked to a prominent leader in the LGBTQIA community on how Arlington's Rainbow Commission stands with the Black Lives Matter movement. These stories and so much more ahead in the next half hour. Join us.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of ACMi News. I'm Jeff Barnes. Town Manager Adam Chaplain and 17 other area leaders signed a pledge this week, which urges state lawmakers to advance police reforms. All this while pledging a sincere commitment within their own communities to address systemic racism and violence in law enforcement. Now, to read that pledge in its entirety, all you have to do is go to the town website, arlingtonma.gov. In the meantime, after taking a short staycation, Adam Chaplain went back to work Monday, July 20th. And that's when ACMi News had a chance to chat with our town manager on several topics, including the latest coronavirus update and the ongoing discussion on race and racial inequity. Adam, thank you for joining us as always. Good to see you. Hope you had a nice vacation.
I did, thank you.
All right, we have 315 positive cases now of COVID-19, 46 deaths in town. What are you hearing from health officials? It seems as though we plateaued, but there's a lot of, especially in the southern states, they're beginning to panic. So obviously you're keeping a close eye on that.
Yeah, so caught up this morning with the health officials, and right, we've plateaued or stabilized. Where we are seeing additional, or the few additional cases that we've been getting are in people that are ages in their 20s and 30s. So that would suggest there is still some community spread. Right, this is not being spread institutionally, unfortunately, like it was earlier in some of our elder facilities or nursing facilities. Mm-hmm. So it still, I think, underscores the need to be careful that it's in the community, it could still be transmitted, and to continue to use this tagline, we need to resist the urge and avoid the surge. Keep the masks on, still stay, be as safe as possible, because like you just said, basically almost the entire country, except for the Northeast, is, it's worse than it was for us 3 months ago. Yeah. The record amount of cases that are coming out of Florida and Texas and others are just stupefying, right? That there's so much spread. So I think we have to be very careful. I don't know what the fall will bring. I don't think anybody does, but I think the more careful we are now, hopefully the better positioned we'll be as we go forward.
Yeah, Florida and Texas, it's very alarming to hear, and really it slams home the reality that nothing is really going to change until we get a vaccine. So until then, everybody needs to be vigilant and be careful and wear a mask. Just wear a mask. It's real easy. I don't understand that, but that's for another day. This week we also have the another community conversation, the elevating the conversation, where we have just people of color talking, and hopefully everyone else will be listening to what they have to say. How important is it to have these community conversations? They've generated a lot of conversations, and they have been getting a lot of attention.
I think they're incredibly important. And I think we've unearthed issues that have been present but not talked about. Like you just said, I think it's spurred a lot of conversation in the community. Some of which might, at least initially be pretty harsh or difficult conversation, but these are difficult conversations. Coming to grips with our history of racial inequity and racial injustice in this country are hard conversations to have. And Leon Andrews from the National League of Cities, who we've been working with in training town staff and also as one of the panelists in the last discussion, I'm going to get it wrong, but he says we need to learn how to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. Whether we're talking about housing and zoning or policing or hiring policy or school disciplinary policies. These are important conversations that need to be had. And I know there's also been concern in the community that these conversations have felt like they're one directional, that it's just people talking on the screen and others listening. And I understand that. And I think I'd say, this is the start. We're putting the issues out on the table, is spurring conversation in the community. And we're working on how we'll be able to make these conversations more two-way as we go forward. This is a long journey. This is not a one meeting solve and racism is over, right? This is a lifetime's work. This is work going to take on probably both of our lifetimes. So I think we've done a lot to get the conversation started in Arlington, and I hope that we can keep it going and engage more and more in the days to come.
Yeah, as you say, baby steps, it's the beginning. It's not going to end on August the 4th with the last conversation. I'm sure you're going to have more in the future anyway, too. Given the COVID crisis, it's tough to have a real honest, face-to-face conversation. So it's not really a controversy, it's more of a discussion, is the Black Lives Matter banner hanging right now at Town Hall. Some people want it up, some residents wanted to stay there. You were proposing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it would be good to display it in various areas of the town. You're going to be discussing that tonight also at the select board.
Yeah, so I think unfortunately, like a lot that we've been dealing with lately, it's all stemmed from a misunderstanding. The Human Rights Commission, the select board, myself, we collaborated on a resolution that the board voted on around the matter of Black Lives Matter and the hanging of the banner. That resolution said that it would be on Town Hall until the acknowledgement or celebration of Black Lives Matter Day on July 13th. And not thinking much of it at the time, we've celebrated Pride Month before, and I think maybe put up some other things on Town Hall before, and then taking them down and continued the work that we do on those issues. So this was posed in that same manner. Definitely created some upset that we would be taking it down while these issues are still so present in the nation and in our community. So again, our intent wasn't to say Black Lives Matter for 30 days and not anymore. So tonight I'm going to be going to the board and saying, I think a month has gone by much faster than we would have predicted.
Absolutely.
And let's keep the banner up while I can work with the Human Rights Commission and other community stakeholders to figure out what the right way is to make this value statement of Black Lives Matter feel heard and feel heard and be made publicly in this community, with the understanding that really there's no banner is going to fly on Town Hall permanently.
To see my interview with Adam Chaplain in its entirety, just go to our website, acmi.tv, and click on newscasts. One major organization that is supporting Black Lives Matter and racial injustice is the LGBTQIA community, a group that knows all too well about being on the margins of everyday life. Earlier this week, we had the chance to talk to Lisa Krinsky, one of the founding members of Arlington's Rainbow Commission. Here now is that interview. Lisa Krinsky, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
This is a banner year for people who are marginalized or on the fringe of society, especially with the George Floyd murder, really. And I've seen a lot of press releases coming from the LGBTQIA community backing Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
Because you share a common bond, do you not?
Absolutely. I think that there's been a strong sense of identification with these experiences within the LGBTQIA community, because we also have a long history of having been disenfranchised and, the issues that come up for folks when they are marginalized, as you said, and when you aren't entitled to the same kinds of rights and same kinds of fair treatment that we assume that our community and our culture provides for folks.
It's interesting because the George Floyd case, we've seen other cases in the past, Eric Gardner, the Brown case in Ferguson, Trayvon Martin in Florida. I mean, it goes on and on and on. They're remembered in a way, but those stories kind of get lost in the news cycle, the 24/7 news cycle. George Floyd did not. This was, in your estimation, it was obviously different. Was it a flashpoint though?
I think it has been. I think the fact that we remember the name and the story and that it has stayed with us for so many months really makes it a watershed moment. I hope for it, at least in the rights for Black Lives Matter. One of the things that in the LGBTQ community, we can talk about sort of Stonewall as a pivotal moment when things changed. And a lot of work had been done before Stonewall, a lot of work came after Stonewall, but we think of something that sort of was a tipping point. And we can hope that what we see mobilized as a movement now will be that tipping point, and that we will see continued concerted change. One of the things that's very different between our communities is that for many people, an LGBTQ identity is an invisible one. We can be selective where we share that for many of us, not all of us. And that when we're talking about people who are Black, that we're talking about literally the skin they live in, and not having that option to cautiously move around this situation, to not come out, to not identify. And so I think that that's terribly important to think about as people travel through the world. Also thinking a little bit of sort of those intersecting Venn diagrams that we have the Black Lives movement, and that we have the LGBTQ community, and that there are places then where they intersect, right? So we talk about intersectionality and the fact that there are LGBT folks who are people of color, and that we've got folks who are in the Black Lives movement and people of color who are part of the LGBT community. And so what do we do and think about for folks who hold both of those identities at the same time, and how do we lift them up and identify that? One of the things that happened here in Boston, June was Pride Month, as it is every year. Because of COVID, most of the Pride activities were canceled. But one of the things that we saw happen here in Boston was that on the date of what would have been the gay pride, the LGBT pride parade in Boston, there was a large gathering for Black trans lives matter. And to recognize that even though we know George Floyd's name and we know so many other names, there is also a huge pandemic of violence and death for Black trans women particularly. And so to be able to hold up those names and to talk about those individuals and the experiences that they share, and make sure that when the Black Lives Matter movement is talking, that they are holding up the names of the trans folks who have been murdered as well. And that we hold both of those as equally important, and to support and to reduce the violence towards people.
You really bring up a good point. In the LGBTQIA community, you can be selective. Mm-hmm. But if you're African American, that's not happening. And on top of that, if you're African American and part of the LGBTQ community, you have a real problem with society, and society obviously has a real problem with you. And that's a really good point. I never thought of that.
And so sometimes people will talk about being selective, that they may find that in certain parts of their community or their culture, they can't bring them their full selves. And so we see this, a lot with young people who don't come out to their families. They maybe come out when they're in school. We've been hearing lots of this, particularly about college students during COVID, mm-hmm. that have been out on their campus and then have to go back and live with families that don't support them. And how do they live sort of an authentic life? And when do people think about what the risk is, right? If you're going to be kicked out of your home, if your faith community will reject you, then maybe you keep that as a quieter part of your identity.
We thank Lisa for her time, and we'll be in touch, of course, in the future as events warrant. Now on to this year's much-loved Fox and Owl Festival. As you know, COVID kind of spoiled the traditional plan to celebrate with a parade and the like. But to celebrate the beloved Fox Library, another virtual party is taking place. One that celebrates community spirit, creativity, and environmental stewardship. We talked to curator Cecily Miller to see what's in store for this year. You have a very interesting festival this year. You have one every year, but incredibly interesting this year because of everything that's happening. The 2020 Fox Festival. Tell us about it.
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on to get the word out about this. The Fox Festival is, this is its 5th year. And it's normally workshops at the Fox Library and at the Thompson and Hardy schools, and kids make costumes and giant puppets and masks. And we have a huge parade with hundreds of people through Capitol Square. Well, clearly we can't do that. So my group of artists and I came up with a scheme to invite people, instead of making giant puppets and masks, to make to tell a story or send a message or make a beautiful poetic photograph of fox and owl. Hi, I'm Cecily, and I'm here to introduce you to Fox and Owl, the stars of the 2020 Fox Festival. Arts Arlington and the Fox Library are inviting everybody in Arlington and beyond to be a part of the epic adventures of Fox and Owl. These are 2 paper puppets, which can be downloaded from the Arts Arlington website, and then you can color them in and make them your own. And you can also make up your own Fox and Owl puppet. You don't have to use our puppets, but if you would like to, you can. And then you can do anything from make a beautiful drawing of the woods or of an ocean voyage or of outer space and put Fox and Owl into that drawing, take a photo and send it to us. Or you can take Fox and Owl out in the world or around your house, set up an environment, take a series of pictures as if you were on a family vacation, and you would take pictures to remember your wonderful times together. Or you can make a short video. And all of these things will be shown together later in the fall in something that we're calling the Fox and Owl Tiny Film and Photo Festival.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yes, a little bit of a mouthful. But just as the parade is made wonderful by the community participation and by the imagination of kids and families making these terrific, fanciful tributes to local wildlife and to community and to imagination. Same with the Film and Photo Festival. It will only be as fantastic as the entries that people send in. So I wanted to just mention that people are doing videos about everything from, there's one that just came in where Fox and Owl pull invasive species out of their garden. There's one that
I could use them in my garden, Cecily. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't we all?
Yeah.
There's another environmentally themed one that a student from the Audison, who's a member of the Green Team, made, where Fox and Owl discuss what is a climate rally, and they decide to go and protest climate change. Mm-hmm. And other people are making stories about, a trip on a boat or a rocket ship. There's one very simple one that an artist made where she used her own puppets to have Fox basically dance with a beautiful peony, a beautiful pink flower, and Owl rings a bell. So these can be simple moments of poetry, or they can send a message. Again, one more time for the website so that everyone can go there and get the information, get the puppets, or at least get inspiration to maybe make their own. So it's artsarlington.org. That's the website for the Arlington Commission for Arts and Culture. And this is a project we're collaborating with the libraries, both Robbins Library and Fox Library, and a whole raft of other wonderful collaborators, including ACMi and a number of community producers have made great videos that are there on the website. So, thank you so much, Arlington, for making this Fox and Owl project a great success this year. I know the film festival is going to be a lot of fun, have a lot of ideas, a lot of creative expression. And my final word is have fun with it. If you make a video and you don't like it, make another one. If the video is too complicated, take pictures. If you want to do something by hand, use your crayons and markers and just make a great picture that has Fox and Owl in it, and send us your stuff. There is no limit to the imagination. Cecily, thank you so much for your time, and please keep in touch with us. Let us know how this year went. Definitely. Thank you for everything you do in the community artistically, not just this, but in all endeavors that you take part in. Thanks. All right, so we'll keep in touch. All right. Do the puppets want to say goodbye too before we sign off? Gosh, they sure do. So long. See you later. Wow, they sound alike. I don't understand that. Cecily, thank you so much, and please stay safe. Thanks. Take care.
That interview was a lot of fun. Now, speaking of creativity, Daniel Gorbunov, AHS class of 22, edited a beautiful video after students were asked to submit work reflecting their feelings as schools were shut down. Here's just a sampling of Daniel's work as we all do the best we can to weather this pandemic during a very hot summer.
We are so happy to give you a glimpse into the hearts and minds of our Arlington student artists. We will continue to ask them, through their art, to tell us what they are thinking and feeling about their lives and about the world around them.
Our goal for this project was to give students a way to reflect on the school closure. We asked them to share their experience of life away from school and friends and all of their normal activities. We wanted students to understand that making art can help us to process things that can't always be put into words.
One thing that I think is really amazing about all of this social distancing artwork is that we now have this wonderful record of what life was like at this time from many different perspectives.
I really enjoyed seeing the different ways that each student interpreted this prompt into an artwork, from abstract art that used color to describe feeling, to students that drew a map of their house.
And you don't give yourself enough credit. Listen to your mom when she tell you don't sweat it, love. When you slow it down, you know what's true. And you don't got a clue what you do to spin my feelings right. I'm sitting dry, yeah. Circles round my mind, had to call you mine. Circles all the time, finger in your hair. Circles round my mind, glad to call you mine. Circles all the time, finger in your hair. You know I'm coming there, you know I'm walking through.
Teaching my students how to be their own kind of artist these last few years has been the best way to prepare them for art making in these new circumstances. They are resilient, they are resourceful, and they will find a way to express themselves through art.
That was great work. Now, to see the entire video, all you have to do is go to the ACMi webpage, acmi.tv. We guarantee you it's among the best things you'll see all day, maybe all week. That'll do it for this week's edition of ACMi News. To see the latest updates on what we're doing to keep you informed, just go to the ACMi News Facebook page. We're constantly updating breaking news and other stories there. And if you want to see the latest on what's going on in town, including any COVID updates and of course the community conversations on race, just go to the town website, arlingtonma.gov. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jeff Barnes. Please, if you can, stay safe, take care of others, keep washing those hands, be careful as we go through this path called life. See what I did there? We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.